10 mental traps behind YouTube's biggest meltdowns. Your brain is setting you up to fail in ways you don't even realize. There are 100 of ways where your brain becomes your own enemy by entrapping in mental traps. Just ask these YouTubers who lost everything because of these mental traps. We all have these psychological blind spots, mental traps that feel completely normal until suddenly you're trending for all the wrong reasons. And while most of us aren't documenting our meltdowns for millions to see, these same psychological quirks are probably behind half your regrettable life decisions too. Today, we're diving into 10 mental traps that explain not just why your favorite creators implode at their peak, but why your own brain might be sabotaging you right now. Let's get started with the first one that happens before you even open your mouth. Mental scripting. Mental scripting. Ever rehearse a whole argument in your head just for the actual conversation to never happen? That's mental scripting. Your brain prepares for battle, then waves the white flag in real life. You craft the perfect comeback to your boss, rehearse exactly how you'll confront your roommate about the dishes, plan precisely how you'll ask for that raise. The words flow perfectly in your imagination. You're articulate, confident, and most importantly, you win. But why do our brains do this? It's about security and control. Rehearsing conversations gives us the illusion of preparedness. It makes unpredictable social interactions feel manageable. It's your brain's way of saying, "Don't worry, I've got a plan." The problem? Reality never follows the script. Other people don't read their lines. They say unexpected things, react in ways you didn't anticipate, and suddenly your carefully crafted monologue is useless. We've all seen this play out spectacularly with YouTubers in crisis. Remember James Charles' first apology video during the Tati Westbrook drama? That rigid, rehearsed response that somehow managed to miss addressing the actual concerns people had. Classic mental scripting failure. You could practically see the bullet points he'd prepared. And when the situation required authentic emotional intelligence, he delivered prepackaged lines that felt hollow precisely because they were rehearsed for a different conversation than the one actually happening. In your head, you always win. In reality, you freeze, stick to an irrelevant script, or worse, say something that makes everything worse because you weren't actually listening. It's why you spend hours crafting the perfect speech for the coworker who microwaved fish only to walk out in silence when it actually happens. The most frustrating part. In your imagined scenarios, you always emerge victorious. In reality, you'll likely just mutter "it's fine" and retreat. Now, moving on to our second mental trap. Ostracism. Ostracism. Being ignored hurts more than being yelled at. That's because your brain treats rejection like physical pain. Back in caveman days, getting kicked out from the tribe meant getting eaten by lions. This isn't just a metaphor. MRI studies show that social pain activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Being excluded literally hurts. Your brain doesn't distinguish between a sprained ankle and being left out of the group chat. Why is this so powerful? Because for 99% of human history, social connection wasn't just nice to have, it was survival. If your prehistoric ancestors got kicked out of the group, they died. Your brain developed an early warning system that makes exclusion feel catastrophic to prevent that outcome. The danger is that we'll do almost anything to avoid this feeling, including making terrible decisions that seem reasonable in the moment. Take Logan Paul's path to the infamous forest video in Japan. If you track his content leading up to that controversy, you see a clear pattern of increasingly extreme behavior. Each video had to be more shocking than the last. Why? Because relevance is the currency of social media, and irrelevance feels like death to your brain. His views were plateauing. Other creators were getting attention with shocking content. The algorithm was changing. And suddenly, filming the unfilmable seemed like a reasonable choice compared to the threat of becoming irrelevant. Your brain screams you're going to end up alone surrounded by cats. Relax, it's just one trending topic you missed. But when creators fear irrelevance, suddenly filming a dead body seems reasonable. Now it just means your group chat made plans without you, but the reaction is the same. Your brain screams you're going to end up alone surrounded by cats. Relax, it's just brunch. Let's explore our third trap, which relates to how we navigate our decision-making. The Google Maps trap. Ever follow GPS straight into traffic or worse, a lake? That's because your brain sometimes trusts technology a bit too much over common sense. This phenomenon, cognitive offloading, feels incredibly efficient. Why keep all that mental navigation data in your head when your phone can do it for you? Why think critically about content when an algorithm can tell you what will perform well? The danger comes when we surrender our judgment entirely to external systems. We stop questioning. We stop looking out the window to see if there's actually a lake ahead. We see this play out constantly with family channels and dangerous trends. Remember when certain family vloggers followed the extreme prank trend without any ethical consideration? Parents filming themselves making their children cry for views, all because the algorithm rewarded it. The Ace family following extreme prank trends by filming pranks on their children that made them cry, including their infamous "We're giving you away" prank that caused their daughter to break down in tears, all because algorithm data showed family prank videos performed well. That's the Google Maps trap in action. The system says, turn here to get views, and creators stop asking if they should be going in that direction at all. It's blindly following a roadmap without engaging your own moral compass. Moving to our fourth trap, which shapes how we perceive reality. Linguistic relativity. Linguistic relativity. The language you speak changes how you think. Some languages have no words for directions. Some are spoken in whistles. Bilingual people act differently depending on which language they're using. This isn't just interesting trivia, it's fundamental to understanding human behavior. The words we use literally shape how we perceive reality. If your language has no word for a concept, you might not even notice it exists. If your community uses certain terms constantly, those concepts become normalized. Why does this matter? Because the vocabulary you immerse yourself in creates blind spots. The danger comes when your language blinds you to others' experiences or normalizes behavior that most people find problematic. No creator demonstrates this better than PewDiePie during his various language controversies. Immersed in gaming culture where certain words and phrases were commonplace, he developed vocabulary blind spots. What was normalized language in one context became shocking when broadcast to a wider audience. It wasn't just about specific slurs. It was about an entire linguistic environment that normalized certain expressions. When called out, his initial confusion was genuine. His language had shaped his perception of what was acceptable. If your language is too insular, you'll struggle to understand why everyone's mad. If you only speak in your bubble's slang, good luck explaining literally anything to your skibidi audience when they inevitably grow up. Let's examine our fifth trap, which affects our motivation patterns. The fresh start effect. Fresh start effect. This Monday, I'm totally getting my life together. Until Wednesday when New You is back to eating cereal for dinner while binge-watching reality shows. Your brain gives you this magical motivation boost whenever you can mentally start fresh, Mondays, months, mornings after your birthday. It genuinely believes this clean slate is different from the previous 50. It rarely is. That's why your journal has 7 enthusiastic, day 1 entries and 0, day 30 ones. The real trick. Stop waiting for symbolic fresh starts and just begin somewhere, anywhere. This psychological phenomenon is remarkably powerful. Research shows we genuinely experience increased motivation after temporal landmarks that create a sense of a clean slate. Your brain compartmentalizes your past self as different from your current self, which feels liberating. The danger is obvious. Motivation without systems fails every time. The effect fades quickly, leaving you right back where you started if you haven't built sustainable habits and structures. We've seen this play out repeatedly with creators like David Dobrik after the Vlog Squad controversies. Multiple comeback attempts followed the same pattern. An emotional apology video, fresh start. Promises of change, motivation spike. Then a gradual drift back toward problematic content once the initial motivation faded, system failure. Each time, the fresh start effect convinced both him and his audience that this time is different. But without fundamental changes to the system that created the problems in the first place, the cycle just repeated. That's why apology videos are full of promise in January and forgotten by March. The secret: don't wait for a scandal to change. Build ethics into your daily routine. That's why gyms are full in January and ghost towns in March. The secret: don't wait for a date, just start. Our sixth trap focuses on how we connect with others. The pratfall effect. Mess up a little and people love you for it. Trip, charming, spill your drink, relatable. It's why celebrities accidentally drop things on talk shows. It tricks you into thinking they're human. This is backed by actual research. people find individuals more likable after they commit a minor blunder. Why? Because perfection is alienating while small mistakes create connection. They humanize you, making you more approachable and authentic. The crucial danger is miscalculating which mistakes are endearing versus concerning. The line between charmingly flawed and seriously problematic is thinner than most people realize. No creator demonstrates this miscalculation better than Gabby Hanna during her content spiral. What began as relatable vulnerability, sharing struggles and imperfections, gradually crossed into territory that concerned rather than connected with her audience. The mistake was in failing to distinguish which flaws create connection, being occasionally disorganized, mispronouncing words, versus which ones create legitimate concern, erratic behavior, publicly attacking other creators. When authenticity becomes a performance, the pratfall effect backfires dramatically. Small mistakes may show you in a light of relatable, but huge ones not so much. Now for our seventh trap that affects our expectations of success. Effort versus reward mismatch. Ever spend weeks perfecting a project only to get a lukewarm looks good, while your coworker gets praised for throwing together a colorful chart in 10 minutes? That's the effort-reward mismatch. Logically, your 100-hour deep analysis should outshine their pie chart, but reality doesn't follow logic. Some environments reward genuine effort. Others reward whoever uses the most buzzwords in meetings or has lunch with the boss. The lesson: work strategically, not just intensely, because if effort perfectly predicted success, the hardest working person at every restaurant would own the place instead of working split shifts. Our brains are fundamentally wired to expect proportional outcomes. Put in X effort, get X results. This expectation is so deeply ingrained that when the equation fails, it creates a profound sense of injustice and resentment. Why? Because for most of human history, effort and reward were directly connected. You hunted, you ate. You farmed, you harvested. The danger emerges when this mismatch breeds entitlement and bitterness. When we believe we're owed success because of our hard work, rejection becomes personal and unfair rather than simply part of an unpredictable system. The beauty community has displayed this pattern repeatedly. Remember when Tati Westbrook's vitamin business launch became entangled with influencer drama? The underlying dynamic was classic effort-reward mismatch. After years of content creation and business development, the success she felt she deserved seemed to come more easily to others who had put in less work. This perceived imbalance fueled resentment that ultimately exploded into one of YouTube's biggest controversies. The effort she'd invested created an expectation of proportional rewards, and when reality didn't deliver, the result was conflict rather than adaptation. Our eighth trap involves how our brains process new information. The BADRMNCHOF phenomenon. Learn what chuji means and suddenly everyone's using it. The universe isn't gaslighting you, your brain is playing tricks. Once you notice something new, your attention system highlights every instance of it, making it seem suddenly common. It's exactly why after researching air fryers, all you see are air fryer ads and friends talking about air-fried foods. They were always discussing crispy vegetables. You just filtered it out before. Now that you're tuned in, good luck ever tuning it out. This happens because of your reticular activating system, the part of your brain that filters information. When you learn something new, your brain flags similar information as important, making you notice what you previously ignored. It's like buying a new car and suddenly seeing that model everywhere. The danger lies in seeing patterns and conspiracies where none exist. When you're primed to notice something, your brain will find evidence even when it's coincidental or meaningless. We've watched creators fall into this trap around demonetization and algorithm changes. Once a creator becomes convinced they're being shadow banned, they interpret every view fluctuation as evidence of targeting. Shane Dawson's descent into conspiracy content partially stemmed from this phenomenon, seeing patterns in platform behavior that were likely just normal variation. The more they focus on perceived targeting, the more evidence they find, creating a self-reinforcing cycle. What starts as a normal traffic fluctuation becomes proof of a grand conspiracy, simply because their brain is now highlighting that pattern. It's the same reason you keep seeing the car you just bought. It was always there, you just weren't paying attention. Annoying, right? Congrats! Let's explore our ninth trap about how we justify our actions. Moral licensing. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, so I've earned this entire box of donuts. That's self-justification in action. One small positive choice becomes permission for 3 negative ones. It's why people spend 10 minutes organizing their desk, then reward themselves with an hour of scrolling social media. Or why you convince yourself that carrying laundry upstairs somehow negates eating half a pizza. Your brain loves this faulty moral accounting where minimal effort grants maximum rewards. Sorry, those systems don't balance. This happens because our brains treat ethics like a bank account. Do something good, make a deposit. This gives you ethical credit to spend later. The danger is obvious. Using good deeds to excuse harmful behavior creates a false equivalence that ultimately leads to net negative actions. We've seen this play out with creators like Jake Paul launching charity initiatives right before or after particularly controversial content. The pattern is remarkably consistent. Raise money for a good cause, then use that moral capital to justify behavior that would otherwise be indefensible. How can you criticize me? I just raised $100,000 for charity. Becomes the shield against accountability. The good note, life isn't math. Enjoy the cake and the cancellation. Our final trap explores why we resist changing our minds. Belief perseverance. Show someone clear evidence their favorite celebrity is problematic and watch them double down defending them harder. Why? Because admitting you're wrong feels like losing a piece of your identity. It's why flat earthers don't just say, "Oh, I see the globe evidence now, my mistake." Instead, they question if gravity itself is real. Your brain would rather build increasingly elaborate justifications than admit an error. Either learn to accept new information or keep insisting that birds are government drones despite all evidence to the contrary. This happens because of cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort you feel when holding contradictory beliefs. When new information challenges your existing beliefs, it creates internal tension that's physically uncomfortable. Your brain wants to resolve this tension as quickly as possible, and the easiest way isn't changing your mind, it's rejecting the new information. The danger is the double-down spiral that magnifies the original mistake. What begins as a minor error becomes a hill to die on, transforming recoverable moments into career-ending stands. Jeffree Star's response to the 2020 cremated palette controversy shows this trap in action. When he released a death-themed makeup palette called Cremated during the height of pandemic deaths, the backlash was immediate. Rather than acknowledging the unfortunate timing, he launched into an escalating series of defenses. First, he claimed critics were reaching. When that didn't work, he insisted production timelines made changes impossible. As criticism mounted, he suggested critics were just jealous competitors. Each new defense became more elaborate than the last, expanding the argument rather than addressing the core issue. What could have been resolved with a simple bad timing? My bad became a weeks-long controversy precisely because admitting the initial error felt like losing. Your brain hates losing, so it clings to bad ideas out of pure stubbornness. Accept new info or go ahead and keep thinking the moon is a hologram. Conclusion. So there you have it, 10 mental traps that explain not just YouTube implosions, but probably most of your questionable life decisions too. From rehearsing arguments that never happen to doubling down when you should apologize, these aren't just creator problems. They're human problems playing out on a giant stage. The thing about mental traps is that they're just that, traps. They're not destiny. Once you recognize them, you can avoid them. The most successful creators aren't immune to these psychological quirks. They're just better at recognizing and countering them. Ask yourself, which of these traps am I falling into right now? Are you mentally scripting conversations that will never happen? Are you letting the fear of irrelevance push you toward bad decisions? Have you convinced yourself you deserve that third donut because you went for a 5-minute walk? We love watching creators fall into these traps because it's entertaining, sure, but also because it's deeply relatable. Their public meltdowns are just higher-stakes versions of our everyday mental missteps. Next time your favorite creator is trending for a meltdown, you'll know exactly which trap they stepped in, and maybe avoid it yourself. Because while we can't always control our brain's psychological shortcuts, we can at least be aware enough to ask, is this really a good idea, or is my brain setting me up to be tomorrow's cautionary tale? Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, hit subscribe for more psychological insights that explain why we do the weird things we do. And remember, knowing about these traps doesn't make you immune to them. It just means you might notice right before you step in one. And hey, if you're thinking, nah, these don't apply to me, That's probably belief perseverance talking. Just saying.